Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be building a split level mid-century build. So the build is going to have 3 different floors to it, and I mean technically maybe 4 floors if you count the one tiny little step down into the garage. So the house is going to have a garage, a large living room, it's going to have a kitchen, dining, 2 bedrooms, a laundry room, a bathroom, and then a big back garden which will have a sort of like lap pool and a little barbecue area, as well as a couple of different seating areas and a dining table and a tiny little outdoor kitchen. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, there's timestamps in the description if you would like to skip around at all or anything like that. Leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know what you think of the build, and subscribe if you have not already. Also check out some of the other builds that I've done after this one if you would like to. So starting off, how I like to start off my builds with a little stop motion and then a sort of like empty house tour so you guys can roughly get an idea of the different rooms and everything. The house itself, I wanted to really build up a lot of like earth and ground around the house to make it seem sort of surrounded, and like half of the house was built on top of the hill, and that kind of helps make it the sort of split level house that it is. So if you've been here for a while, you will know that I absolutely love doing mid-century builds. They are one of my absolute favorites to do. I don't do them like tons and tons, but honestly I could probably do every single build would be a mid-century build and I wouldn't be mad by it. But I really like to shake it up. But when I do come to do a mid-century build, I go a little all out, and sometimes I don't know if maybe I take it a little bit too far, but I always absolutely love all of the mid-century style sort of retro builds that I've done. I just absolutely love all of the colors and just the way that the houses look. Like mid-century builds themselves are just so nice. I just love them so much, and they're one of my absolute favorites to do. So I wanted to make another split level house because this is actually only my second split level home. I have done the previous build that I'd done that was kind of like mid-century, well, it was mid-century style, was it just had a sunken living room, so that one wasn't really correct to call it like a split level or anything. But this one is definitely split level. It does have like, I mean, it does technically, I guess it could have 4 like levels, but as I said, the garage is literally just like 1 step down into the garage, so I don't really think that that could count as a level. But I mean, it might do, in which case it's like a 4 level house. So you come into the house, the front door, and you come into the kitchen, and then if you go down some stairs you'll go into the living room, and then from the living room there's like a little corridor that leads you into the garage, which, as I said, it has like 1 block step down, which is not tons, but we could count it as a floor. And then from the kitchen, if you go up some stairs, you're in the top part of the house, which is where the bedrooms, the bathroom, and the like little laundry room is. So I just like absolutely love split level homes. I would love to have one. I would really like to have one. I don't know what it is about them, I just really like them. And I really like this one because I feel like it's a nice like difference between the stairs, because I think one thing that I do struggle with split level homes is deciding how many steps there's gonna be before you get to the next level. So I've said in a couple of builds, the way that I like to do my builds is I don't really like to go any more than like 15 or 16 blocks high on the interior. So from floor to ceiling it will always be like either 15 or 16 blocks. There's just the way that I prefer to do my builds, and I just feel like it's a comfortable height with the items in game, plus like your character's height and everything like that. So that's the way that I just prefer to do them. So trying to figure out that, and obviously making sure that there's enough space like on each of the floors. It was sometimes with the split level homes they give me a little bit of trouble just trying to figure out like the layout, but with this one I feel like it it was a little bit easier because the kitchen section is, it's kind of like its own little area, and then you have the living room section, which is on the lower floor, and then you have the like bedrooms and stuff, which is the top floor. So there's only a couple of steps from the living room to the top floor, which I really like. So it's not like a really large full length like stairs or anything. So I'm so happy with how this build turns out, and I really do hope that you guys like it. So first room, well, not a rambling, first room we start off on is the kitchen, as it's the first room that you enter when you come into the house. So like I said, I absolutely love doing mid-century builds, and I feel like one thing with mid-century builds, the color schemes, I think maybe it's the color schemes that I really like, because all the time it's always like it's woods, greens, orange, like dark blues, yellows, like mustard yellows and stuff like that, and I just feel like the color combinations are just like, I don't know, I just feel like they're perfect. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why I love doing mid-century builds, because those colors together, they just work so well. And I love all the like different pops of color. If you have like some like mustard yellows, like I've said before, any excuse to have like a mustard yellow sofa or anything like that. And spoiler, this house in the living room does have a yellow sofa, but the colors just go really well together. So the kitchen, I mean, it's a pretty big kitchen, but I knew I wanted a kitchen dining. So there's a kitchen counters that go around the wall in a little sort of like L shape. There's a big fridge. I did manage to put a dishwasher in this one as well. There's one oven, and there's a sink, and the sink and the dishwasher are next to each other in this build. I know in the last mid-century build that I did, which was the one with the sunken living room, I will link that in the description if you guys are interested in checking that out after this video. But that one, I said in that video, I thought it was a little bit weird, but like after I'd done it, that the sink was on one side, and then the the dishwasher was on the other side of the kitchen, and I just thought that maybe that was a bit weird. So from a practical standpoint, obviously it makes sense for them to be like close to each other, or at least on the same like section of wall. So this time there is a dishwasher and a sink on the island in the kitchen, and of course there's an island breakfast bar, one of my absolute favorite things to make. So the kitchen has a island breakfast bar with the sink on it, and then some more counters. So there's a lot of prep space in this kitchen, which I absolutely love. I feel like, I know I say this a lot in builds, but if I could move into this build, I would 100% move in, like no questions asked. I would take it as it is. I really like how it turns out, and the kitchen I feel like is perfect. But yeah, so there's a kitchen. The tiles in the kitchen, I was trying to choose between a couple of different tiles. I don't normally mess around too much. It's one of the things that I'm trying to do in builds going forward, is to try and use more wallpapers, as they are also bringing out the like custom wallpapers and custom textures and stuff like that as well at some point. That's on the new roadmap that they posted, so I'm excited to see, or like try and make something like that. I'm curious to see how that's gonna work. But I'm trying so hard to try and use some different patterns and wallpapers and cut patterns and stuff like that. And I tried in this build, I really liked, it's kind of like a little star pattern. I was really tempted to use that for the tiles in the kitchen, but I didn't. I just ended up going with the little rectangle ones. But I really like the rectangle ones. I think that they suit sort of mid-century builds a lot. So I'm not mad at it, and I do really like how the whole build like turns out as a whole. But I was trying so hard to try and use a different style of tile cut pattern, but I ended up defaulting to the rectangles. But I'm really trying to make like a conscious effort to try and use some more wallpapers and patterns and like cut pattern tiles. Yeah, cut patterns, sorry, not just for tiles, they can be used for like other stuff, but like the cut patterns for different builds. But this one was just not it. I just defaulted to the rectangle ones, but I really like how it turns out. So the tiles end up being a green. I was torn between what sort of colors to do the tiles. Now in the mid-century build that I did with the sunken living room, that one had green, what do you call it, green counters, and not green counters, but like green cupboards, like kitchen cupboards. And I really liked how that one turned out, but I didn't want to do green cupboards again in this build, so I done green tiles instead, and I went for a wood texture cupboard with a white marble like countertop, and then with the breakfast bar, sorry, in the island section, I went for the tile pattern that is like different colors. It's got like bits of orange and stuff like that in it. I went for that for the island section, and I made it like a waterfall island. So I just do what I like to do with the resizable square, and I put that along the side of the counters, because when I've done breakfast bars or kitchen islands, I like to make them a little bit bigger. So I tend to use two what are they called, kitchen counters that are sort of like, I normally do it so the front of the counter has like the drawers or the cupboards and stuff, but the one behind that, the drawers and cupboards are actually facing inwards, so you like it's as if they're not there. And then making the waterfall like countertop go over the sides, it hides the gap between them, otherwise you'll be able to like see through it. And I just feel like it looks a lot nicer, it looks more seamless, and I just really like doing that. So I done that in this build, as it is sort of like a big kitchen island with a breakfast bar on one side and then the sink and that on the other. And then behind the breakfast bar is where I put the dining table. Now originally I did put the dining table sort of like squished up to the side of the like kitchen, like closer to the windows, the corner, and I ended up moving it a little bit closer to the stairs because I thought it was maybe a little bit too close to the window, and there was like enough walk-in space, so it wasn't too much of a problem. And the chairs I decided to use for the kitchen dining room table, I make them a few different colors. So as I said, like the colors to me that are very reminiscent of like mid-century and stuff, it's like orange, dark blue, green, and then like mustard yellow. So each of the chairs around the table are one of those colors. So one's green, one's blue, one's orange, and one's yellow. And the appliances for the kitchen, like the oven, the fridge, everything like that, I make those a yellow as well, because I feel like they just fit in really well with the cupboards and the tiles and everything that I use. I only have one wall which has some cupboards on it, like on the wall near the oven, because the other wall where the fridge is sitting, that wall actually has windows across it at the very top, so I didn't want to put cupboards there, but I do put in some shelves, and then those shelves just have some cups, decorative bits, just like different bits and bobs that you would use, cooking books, a little photo frame, and just stuff like that. But then what I do is I don't show myself doing it, but above the cupboards that I do add on the wall with the oven, do put some more shelves above that, and in there I just put some like jars and different things. I fill some of the jars with like lemons and stuff. I did that in the 70s apartment build that I done. I'll link that one in the description as well if you would like to check it out. But I just thought that the area up above the oven looked a little bit empty, so I wanted to put in some more little bits. So I decided to fill it up with some shelves, and again just like some decorative bits, maybe some appliances that you don't really use on a daily basis, just stuff like that. And I really like how the whole kitchen turns out, even though the colors are like kind of dark in the kitchen, like with the dark wood and stuff. Most of the walls are sort of a cream beige, and I really like that to add in a little bit of brightness. The floor that I use in the kitchen is actually the same tile pattern as well as the like breakfast bar and the island section, so it kind of just like all flows into one, but the other counters in the kitchen stay as sort of like the white marble, so I thought it was a nice different like contrast between the two. But the kitchen's actually quite light and bright, and there's a lot of windows, and that is one thing that again that I really do like about mid-century builds is the amount of windows in them, and this one is no exception. There's a lot of like floor to ceiling windows, and you've got the windows at the front of the kitchen which are really high up, and then you've got some more windows that are surrounding the corner of the kitchen where the dining table is, and those look out pretty much just onto the hill of the house. So the house is surrounded like by a big like hill, and then there's like just so many rocks and foliage and stuff that I put out there, but I'll talk about that a little bit when I get talking about the garden, because the garden in this build just took me so long. I don't show a lot of it because it was taking me forever. But I really like that view out on the garden, because the hill is sort of like level with the kitchen side of the house, so you can just like straight out, and I think it just looks really nice. One thing that I did do with all of the windows in this house is I did double them up. So normally I like to double up the windows, especially if I use the resizable glass piece. For this build I didn't. I just used like literally the biggest window that they have available in the game in itself. You can have it with the like lines in the middle, but I prefer to use most of the time without the lines in the middle. But the biggest window I use that, but I do double it up. So I put the one window in and then I duplicate it and I push the other one, so it because there's like this little gap where obviously like a windowsill would sit. I don't really like that sometimes, and for this build I didn't. So I ended up doubling up those windows. It took a little bit of time because I need to use the move tool not on the snapping, but I really like how it looks in the end. And then it's maybe a little bit weird, I'm not too sure, but the exterior windows are white and then the interior windows are like brown. And I don't know if that's a little bit weird, but I really liked how it looked. I liked the like little contrast it had with the walls and everything like that, so it wasn't just like white all the way around. So I do end up making the inside windows brown, and then the exterior windows for the whole build are white. So I don't know if that's a little bit weird, but that's what I did, and I really do like how it turns out. And I do put up some curtains as well in the kitchen. But yeah, once I am done with the kitchen, I move on to the entryway, which is literally right next to the kitchen. As I mean, I guess the entryway is obviously the first place that you come into the house, and then it's the kitchen, but they kind of just like blend into each other. So with the entryway, I wanted it to be something that was quite simple. I didn't want there to be like tons and tons of stuff there. I knew I wanted like a little sideboard, the way that I like to have a place for you to put like any letters or your car keys, bags, stuff like that. I do use the kitchen cupboards, and I create a little bench out of them, so you can pull them down and you can stick your shoes in them, stuff like that. And I put a cushion on top of that so it acts as a little seat. And then I used one of the giant mirrors that come out with the Sakura DLC, and I put that on the wall. I also use wood panels in the entryway and a wood floor, and the wood floor does have the it has a little, I think it's like little triangles, like little triangle pattern wood. It's one of the patterns of it's one of the cut patterns, sorry, that I don't use a lot, so I was happy that I got a different style cut pattern into this build at least somewhere. So I use that for the entrance. And I really like the giant mirror that I put up, especially with it being on the wall that I end up having as wood panels. I think that it's nice to have something like that with some wood panels so it's not all like super dark. I was originally just going to have some shelves up there with some decorative bits, but I think the mirror was a better choice. And then I end up sort of kind of custom making some lights for the wall. I use two different sets of wall lights and I just merge them into each other. Honestly, they end up looking like ice cream cones with ice cream in them, which I'm not mad at. I actually really quite like how they look, but I wanted something a little bit different there, so I just put two lights together. Both lights as well end up coming on when I wire them up and everything. But yeah, the entrance is just pretty simple. The other side of the entrance has a little sideboard, but for like keys, phones, letters, stuff like that. And then there's a little picture there, as well as some hooks for some coats and stuff. But I was thinking this maybe couldn't be like the main place where they store like their coats and stuff, just like the everyday coats, everyday shoes, stuff like that. I did try to fit in, so like the wardrobes, like I like to do thinking that it's like coat storage or anything like that, but they were a little bit too thick to, like, the door wasn't fitting quite right, so I didn't end up doing that. It's not like a huge space, but it's definitely like a big enough space for you to store some shoes and coats and just some other little bits. And then there's also a plant there, so it's like when you come through the front door you can literally see straight into the kitchen, and then there's like a little railing where you can see down into the living room. And I'm really happy with the layout of this build just in itself, with like the different floors and stuff. I'm really happy with it, and I really want to live here. I really like it. But yeah, that is the sort of like entranceway, and then once I'm done with the entranceway I move on to the living room. Now the living room is pretty big, and as I said, it does end up having a yellow, sort of like mustard yellow sofa, which I absolutely love. But to start off with the living room, I wanted to make a big sort of like built-in shelf section, and I've done this before in a build and I don't think previous builds gave me that much trouble, but for some reason this one was giving me trouble until I figured out the way to do it. So the bottom cupboards are just like kitchen cupboards. They're raised off of the floor, literally like one tiny resizable block like wide, and then the top of that I just ended up using a combination of shelves and the corkboard piece to create a sort of built-in shelf look. And I wanted the shelves to be sort of like a staggered, kind of staggered, like divided differently. So I ended up dividing them a little bit randomly. There's only like 3, and I wanted the shelves to not all be like the exact same size. I wanted a little bit of a smaller one, and I wanted them to be divided a little bit differently, to have like different sections just for books, decorative bits, whether it be like photos or statues or vases and flowers and just different things like that. And I really like how it turns out. I'm super happy with it. As I said, I've done something similar in a couple of previous builds, but for some reason this one was giving me a little bit of trouble trying to figure out how to do it until I finally figured it out. Using the resizable shelves along with the corkboard piece and resizable square little block is the way to go. It is the way to go. So I made that, and I made that in a sort of like orange wood color as well, and I just love it because the back wall where it is, I wasn't really sure as to what to do there, so a built-in like bookcase and storage I think was a really good choice. And then one side of it is empty, where I just put up a bigger photo frame and a couple of extra little bits like a radio and a statue and just a lamp, little things like that. But decorating the shelves, it took a little bit of time because I used a combination of the like already stacked books, and then I made stacked books of my own. I put in a bunch of vases, lamps, decorative bits, plants, posters, or like photo frames, sorry, just different things like that. So when we get to the living room and I start decorating the shelves, I do a little bit in the video, but I don't do all of it, and the floor is just littered in all different types of things that I thought that I might want, just so it was a little bit easier for me to decorate a little bit of the shelf in the video rather than doing absolutely everything sort of like off camera or constantly like in and out of the store and having to chop out the store. I went in and just put down anything that I thought I might need. So there's so many different like lamps and plant pots and books and statues and all that kind of stuff all over the floor until I'm like slightly satisfied with the shelf, and then I move on to like the rest of the living room. So the sofa ends up being a pretty dark mustard yellow, and a lot of the furniture in the living room is like wood textured. I also have a wood textured panel flooring, and the items around the house, the items in the living room also sort of mimic that same like texture. So the sofa ends up being a pretty sort of like a dark mustard yellow sofa, but it's definitely a yellow sofa. And I absolutely love it. The rug that I do end up putting down in the living room, it does change to something I think a little bit more calmer, or yeah, a little bit calmer, because the one that I do end up putting in, I don't know why I decided to go for like such a bold pattern. I mean, mid-century is like quite bold anyway, but I think the rug was a little bit too much. So I do end up changing the rug pattern out for something a little bit calmer. It does end up becoming a sort of like fluffy cream with some burnt orange, and yeah, like a burnt orange wave in it. It's one of the patterns in that you can have on different items, or a wallpaper pattern, but the one that I had before that, it was just a little bit too much, I think. So I would definitely wanted to swap it out, because I was spending so long trying to figure out the rug. I was just like, I'll leave it with this like really bold pattern, and I'll figure it out later. I will sort it out later. But the living room also does have a fireplace, and it's actually a fireplace at an angle, and I have never done a fireplace like that before until now, and I absolutely love how it turns out. It's a green fireplace, and the tiles I use I think are also very reminiscent to sort of like mid-century builds. They're like these cream tiles, they're quite chunky. It's really simple, but I feel like it's also really reminiscent to like mid-century. So I'm really happy with how the living room turns out as a whole, like the fireplace and everything, and I really like how the fireplace turns out, especially of course there's like a chimney and stuff on the exterior, but from the exterior of the house you just think that it's like a like rectangle fireplace, but when you come into the living room it's actually at an angle. And for the whole piece, from literally the living room going up to the roof of the top floor, because the fireplace like chimney goes through the one of the bedrooms that's upstairs, I just used a resizable triangle piece, and that was it. So the it has the same tiles going like from the living room up through the bedroom as well, which I thought when I get to the bedroom, I think that it adds a nice like color difference and texture difference to the rest of the items that are in that bedroom. But yeah, absolutely love how the living room turns out. There's a TV unit, and again the TVs are quite small, so I ended up, it's not really like, I mean I guess it's kind of making my own TV. Just used a corkboard piece and painted it sort of like shiny black, and then merged it into an already existing TV. So you have the TV mount on the wall, so it just looks like a TV. You just can't like turn it on or anything. I know they do have in the store, I don't know, I think it's maybe something very specific to Sandbox Mode, like Sandbox only items, but they do have like a TV bracket mount, like a wall mounted one. So I could have just used that, but I just decided to use a actual TV and then just merge in a corkboard piece onto it, but I mean it gives the same effect, so it's fine, it works. It just can't be turned on or anything. And then that just has like a little TV sideboard underneath it, or TV unit. And then there's a section of the living room that is kind of under the stairs, and it has extra windows on it that leads out that look out into the back garden. And I was trying to figure out what to do in that section. To begin with, I try and do like some extra shelves, and I was thinking that I could put like a little desk there, because I think that that would be like a nice little cute place to get some work done or something like that. But I wasn't liking how it looked, because I didn't want to get rid of the windows. If I had different windows in that section of the living room underneath the stairs, I think it maybe would have worked out a little bit better. But I didn't want to get rid of the windows because I really liked them. I really liked them. And the desk just wasn't working out how I was thinking it would work out. So what I end up doing underneath the stairs is just putting in like a little seat, which come out with the Scooby-Doo DLC, and I put some lights up, a little table, just like making it sort of like a little chill area where you can read a book or just relax. And then underneath the stairs, it's maybe a little bit awkward. I don't know, but I feel like it might be a bit awkward, but I'm also thinking it'll be fine. But underneath the stairs, I put a little sideboard with some drinks and cups and books and stuff on it. So sort of like a little bar section in the house, but sort of tucked up out of the way. Now, realistically, it might be a little bit of a pain to get to and like get the drinks out and the glasses or whatnot, but just as like something that's tucked up out of the way, you could move the chair and just grab what you want and then go and like pour the drinks somewhere else, just as like a little decorative thing but also functional. I think that it would definitely work. It's not like it's a really small crawl space, but it's definitely not a section where you could like stand up comfortably and pour drinks. But I just wasn't really too sure what to put underneath the stairs, but I knew I wanted something, so I thought a little like drinks bar section would be really good. So that's what I do underneath the little stair section in the living room, because the stairs, again, they're not like full length stairs going from the kitchen to the living room, but the ceiling height matches up. It was really like weird to try and figure out, and as I said at the beginning, the layout for this, trying to figure out the sizes of everything and not having like really full length stairs was the one thing that I found the hardest about doing this build specifically. And just like whenever I try and do a split level build, trying to figure out that sort of like height, just making sure that there's enough space for you to walk. But yeah, obviously if the stairs were like longer or bigger going up to the kitchen, then there would be more space, but I think that's fine. I think that it would definitely be functional. So when I'm done with the living room, I move on to the garage of the build. Now, the garage, I do actually end up making it a little bit bigger. I kind of underestimated, the size of the garage when I originally made the shell. So I do actually extend the garage a little bit to make it bigger, because the car was pretty much hitting the garage door and the wall at the same time, and it just wasn't practical. So I do end up making it a few blocks bigger. It does mean that I had to mess around with sort of remaking a little bit of the roof, which was annoying because roofing is just something that I'm not really good at, and I struggle with it, especially trying to make them like blend in with each other. But I got there in the end and I think it looks okay. But yeah, I definitely think that I was a good idea, to extend the garage a little bit, because it was very cramped in there with the car. But the garage is this section where it could technically count as a 4-level split level home, because you go down like one block before you're actually in the garage, like the garage floor. So there's just like a little step, but I don't know if I would class that as like fully another level. I mean, technically it is, but I'll let you guys decide. It's really not a big deal. So the garage is just a kind of a garage. I've tried to mess around with some stains again to make it look like a usable space, like the dad's like a workshop or something like that. There's just some storage. There's a boat on the ceiling, which I thought was kind of cool because I did a build a while ago, one of my first mid-century builds. It was a lake house, and that was before they added the pool tool. So in that one, the lake is quite small. The lake is quite small on that because I was having to use the pools flipped upside down, and I mean it works, it gets the general idea, but you could only flip upside down X amount of pools before they would stop having water in them, which was really weird. But then they added in the pool tool, but that was quite a while after I had done that build. So to go off of that build, I was thinking there could be like a lake nearby this house where the family like to take the boat occasionally, but the boat's a bit damaged at the moment and it's just chilling on the ceiling waiting to be like repaired or fixed up or maintained, that kind of thing. And then the rest of the garage is just fill up with different like garage bits. We've got some stored chairs, we've got a little workbench, some posters, spare tires, just the spare boxes and storage, stuff like that really in the garage. Just it's just a garage. It's a little bit messy. There is a car in there as well and some bikes and just, yeah, I mean it's just a garage. I think out of all the rooms, garages are probably one of my also least favorites to do. Like I say that I'm not very good at like doing bathrooms, or bathrooms are sometimes my least favorite rooms, but I think garages are probably my absolute least favorite rooms to do, just because I feel like I don't really know what to put in. I mean, you could have a garage with like a ping pong table or like pool or something. Like, I think we have a pool table in House Supper too. But like you could do things like that. But I feel like whenever I do garages, it's always normally just like I make them a little sort of workspace, little workshop section, which, you know, I think also really suits a garage. But garages are definitely my probably like least favorite room to do in any house. But yeah, so that is the garage, and then once I'm done with the garage, I move on to the upstairs of the house. So first off, I just start doing a little bit on the landing, just putting in some cupboards and decorative bits. There's not really much that goes into the landing. I end up putting some curtains, obviously, for the windows, some radiators, some pictures, just little bits and bobs like that. Not too much. There is like a little decorative sideboard, as I mentioned, but there's not tons and tons that goes into the landing section. So when I'm done with the hallway like landing section, I move on to the first bedroom. So the first bedroom that I do, I'm pretty sure it's the biggest out of the two of them. I'm calling it like the master bedroom, but it has, as I said, the chimney going from like the living room up to the roof, so it has quite a big section of the room taken up by that, but I'm not mad at it. I really quite like it, and as I said, I think it adds a little bit extra to the room, like a little bit of a different color, a little bit of a different texture, because it's the same tiles that I used downstairs, as it is one big piece. I could have definitely split that triangle piece up into two separate sections, so still had the same look about it, but had the downstairs section be the tiles, and then the section that's in the section that's in the bedroom, I could have had that be a different like color or anything, but I really like having the tiles go like from the first floor up to the bedroom. So I really liked how that looked. I just wasn't sure how to sort of like decorate it in the bedroom section, so I don't really put anything on it, but I do put some plants and stuff around the floor next to it, and I think the green from the plants work really well with like the beige cream tiles. But yeah, the first bedroom that I work on, I'm calling it the master just because it's the biggest one, and I can actually fit a bedside table on each side of the bed in that room, whereas the other bedroom that I do in this build, it's definitely the smaller room, and I can only fit one bedside table. So the first bedroom I work on, I'm calling the master bedroom. I end up going for a green carpet, and a green carpet is what I really wanted to use in the 70s apartment build that I did, but instead in that one I just ended up going like a full-on green bathroom. So I decided to do a green carpet in this one instead, and the whole sort of like bedroom, the first bedroom that I work on, it's very green overall. I feel like there's a lot of green in this build, but the bedroom's very quite green. It has a fluffy green carpet with a sort of like olive green bed and bedding, and then the like wardrobe, chest of drawers, stuff like that is just a wood color, and the walls are kind of like a, I think they're also kind of cream, but they're not the same cream as the rest of the house. It's more of like a really milky coffee cream, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, the bedroom is just kind of simple. There's a little chair that I put in there as well, which I do make yellow. So the first bedroom is very green, yellow, and orange. And there's just some decorative bits that I put on the wall, some shelves that I make up with some plants, some books, flowers, photos, just different things like that. There's not tons and tons of decorative bits that I do in the master bedroom, but there's definitely a few little bits here and there. And the sort of like main wall in the master bedroom, what I'm calling is the master bedroom, I make that wall be like a wood panel, and I feel like that just like ties everything together as well. And yeah, it's a very green first bedroom. I do also as well make it as if the bed is kind of on like a platform, so at the bottom of the bed I have like a little what is it, the resizable cushion. I put that down on a little platform, so it's like a little seating section or just like a little extra part of the bed. But yeah, I do like how the first bedroom turns out, but it's not necessarily something that I would personally want. Like, I would love this house, but that room is probably not the room that I would have. So yeah, overall the first bedroom is very green, very olive green, and there's some plants and stuff in there as well. And just yeah, I'm happy with how it turns out, but it's very, very green. It does remind me of the 70s apartment, like a bathroom that I did. But yeah, that is the first bedroom, and then once I'm done with that first bedroom, I then move on to the bathroom. So the color scheme for the bathroom is pretty much the same as the kitchen. I don't know if that was a good idea or bad idea, but that is what it is. The tiles that I use in the bathroom are the same like green tiles that I use in the kitchen, as well as the floor in the bathroom is the same floor that I use in the kitchen. It's the marble one with the different specks in it of like different colors like black, yellow, brown, orange. I absolutely love that tile. It's one of my favorites, but I was going to try and use a different sort of cut pattern in the bathroom. As I said, I was going to try and use a different cut pattern in the kitchen, but I didn't. And when I put the same tiles as the kitchen in the bathroom, I was just instantly sold on it, and I really, really liked how it looked, so I just rolled with that. But yeah, the bathrooms are very green and brown, but I really like how it turns out. The bathroom consists of obviously like a sink, a toilet, and it has a separate bath and shower. And the bath that I use in the bathroom, it come out with the Scooby-Doo DLC, and I have wanted to use that. I've wanted a builder to use that bath in for the longest time, and this was it. This build was it. I did have to extend the house a little bit on the outside towards the in the back garden of this house. I had to extend the walls to be able to make the bathroom a little bit bigger. I didn't just want the bathroom room sort of like hanging over the rest of the house. So when we get to the garden, you'll see that there is like a big extension that goes down from the bathroom to the ground floor, but on the inside of the house, down near the living room, like between the living room and the garage, that's not like a usable space on the interior. In hindsight, I think I probably could and should have put like a downstairs bathroom in that section, but I do use that for something else. It's just on the exterior of the house. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense when I get to the garden, but let's continue talking about the bathroom. So I really wanted to use the bath that come out with the Scooby-Doo DLC. I wanted to use it for a long time, but it's such a big furniture piece. But this was the build. This was the build to do it with. So the bath is actually on its own platform with the shower, and I guess in hindsight maybe you could say that this is like a 5-level split level house, because of you've got the kitchen on one level, the bedrooms on one level, you've got the living room on another, and then the bathroom and the garage both have like one block. I don't really think it's worth counting it, but I guess that you could if you wanted to. But yeah, the bath is like one block higher, and then in the garage it's like one block lower. Anyway, that's just, I think it's just more or less like a 3-level split level home. But if you wanted to be finicky about it, you could definitely say that it's like a 5-level house. But yeah, the bath is the bath that came out with the Scooby-Doo DLC, and I wanted to use it for the longest time. It's just such a big piece, and I wanted to really use it in this build. So that's in this build, and it's on its own little platform, because in some sort of like mid-century builds you can have the bath. The bath is kind of like sometimes almost level with the floor, which I kind of like, but I didn't want to do that with this build, because then that would mean that I was taking space away from the ground floor of the house, and it wasn't really I did try sinking it down like a block or two, but I just didn't like the way that it looked. I think it's maybe the shape of the bath. With a different bath, I think it would definitely it would work a lot better, and I'll probably maybe do that in another sort of build at some point. But with this one, it's just on its own platform, because sometimes like mid-century baths, they can either be kind of sunk into the floor, so you just literally almost step down into them, or they can be on their own platform where obviously you have to like still step up into them. And that's what this one is. This one's on its own like little platform with the shower. Obviously in a real life setting, the tiles would be slightly dipped down, so all the water would drain off into the shower drain like when you get out of the bath or whatnot. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the bathroom turns out. It is very green. The toilet matches the bathtub, and again, it's the one that come out with the Scooby-Doo DLC. It's not my favorite toilet, words I thought I would probably never say, but it's definitely not my favorite one. I feel like it's just so low. But yeah, it went with the bath and I wanted to use it. And the shower is just the sort of like freestanding shower, the one where you can like kind of custom make a shower. I was gonna try and use the shower that also come out with that specific set of items, but the shower version that come out with it, I really don't like that, and I didn't think that it fit this I didn't think that it fit the room or anything, as well as it was a bit too big. So I just went with the sort of like standard shower with a drain. And then the sort of like cupboards that are in the bathroom, I use a kitchen counter cupboard, and I use a floating sink, as well as the bathrooms are like the one place where I normally will always custom make something, and this one is no exception. This one I custom make some drawers underneath the sink, because I feel like the sinks that come out with the bathroom sets that have the cupboards built into them, I think that they are like, they always seem so low. Like they always seem like so low to the floor. So I definitely always gravitate towards and prefer the sinks that are sort of like floating on their own platform, because those you can like move them where you want them, and those are the best sinks to use if you want to make like if you want to custom make something. So I use one of those, and the one that I actually use is one that I don't normally use too much. It's the thicker one, and the sink is kind of like built into the like unit that it's in, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't normally use that specific sink. All of the other sinks are kind of like sitting on top of their like shelves, but this one's actually like built in, and it's a lot thicker, so I don't normally use that one too much because I find that one harder to make sort of like built-in items with. But I did use that one for this build because I really like the shape of it, and I think that it really suited the sort of like mid-century theme of the house. It is set back a little bit far, like there's a little bit too much counter, I think, in front of the sink, but it is what it is. But I used that, and I custom built a little storage unit underneath it with the shelf pieces, which I always say are like the calyx units. I put 2 of those underneath it, and it took a lot of fiddling around trying to get it right and trying to get everything to line up with each other. So a lot of using the move tool and resizable squares, as well as the windowsill piece so that I could place items on top, and then also the corkboard piece to hide the sides. So a lot of different pieces went into it, as well the shelf units that I used, the like ones that are like the calyx ones, I had it so they had the I had it so they had the drawers in it. So there's 4 drawers underneath the sink, and I had to push them back a little bit. The handles were poking out, but you couldn't see the definition to see that it was actually like 4 different drawers. So there's one piece of the molding, I think it's actually like a floor transition piece, but I use it for a lot of different things. Like in the bathroom for this build, I use it as a transition piece between the paint and the wall tiles. But I think in the store it is actually called like floor transition piece or something like that. But I use that as like on the smallest it will go, and I again use the move tool and put that between the 2 shelves so that it kind of acts as if the drawers, so that it kind of like separates them, so you get the illusion that, you know, it is actually 2 drawers, because where I had to move them back to match up with the kitchen cabinet that I used on the other side of the sink, it kind of they lost the definition of you being able to see that, you know, they are different drawers. You know, they can't be opened, but in real life, you know, they would be able to open. I think I say a lot, like obviously House Flipper, it's not really designed to be something that's like lived in like The Sims, although like I would love to like live in these. I would love to live in the houses, but you know, if this was like in a real life setting, it would definitely be more than functional. And then the countertop, I think I said the countertop for the bathroom. Sorry, do I keep saying kitchen? I feel like I keep saying kitchen. I'm sorry if I do. I'm talking about the bathroom. I think I mentioned the countertop for the bathroom sink and everything. It's the same marble as the kitchen, but it's just like a cream version. And then there just ends up being some different bits that are put on top of the counter, just like some toothbrushes, a mirror, some shaving stuff. I use one of the mirrors that also come out of the Scooby-Doo DLC. I absolutely love those mirrors. They're so nice. I will use them as many times as I possibly can. But I added some lights to that mirror. I think that it blends it quite well, but I just wanted some sort of light, and the way that I had the mirror, because I put the mirror down and then I used the move tool to make it sort of like at an angle, so it looks a little bit funky, but I wanted some sort of like light, kind of like a mirror light, but I wasn't really sure where to put one, so I just ended up using the big sort of like circle lights, the same ones that I used in the entranceway actually, to make them look like ice cream cones. lights. There's just like the big circle lights. I use 3 of those, and I put those around the mirror in the bathroom, and they're attached to their own like light, so you could just have those on. But yeah, I really like how that turns out. And then in the bathroom, there's other little like pops of color with some orange, some gold, and yellow. I do put in a towel rail, which is just behind the door, between the door and the shower. I wasn't really sure where to put one. I think towel rails are one of the things that I normally always forget in bathrooms, which sounds really weird. I mean, we don't have a towel rail, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But I was going to stick it next to the toilet, but I didn't think that that was a good idea. So it fits in nicely between the door and the shower, and it still gives you like enough space to like walk between it and the bath. Hopefully that's making sense. So like you're not gonna like brush up against it all the time, but I thought that was a good place for that to go. And then on the back of the door, I like to put some hooks for like extra towels and stuff. I did used to put the hooks on the doors and the towels on the door, and the doors used to open, but now if you can put the hooks on the door and the doors like open absolutely fine, but if you stick a towel on there, I don't know if they changed it, but the last time I tried it where I stuck a towel on the back of a door on a hook, the door just like point blank would not open. It was like something was stopping it, which is funny. But I do sometimes stick mirrors on the back of doors, and the doors do tend to open. But if I leave the game and then like come back, sometimes the mirrors are like hanging off of the door. So it's a little bit fiddly, but it does work. But again, I think that's a really cool thing about House Flipper 2, that you can actually like stick things on the doors, and most of the time the doors will function. The doors will function properly. But yeah, the bathroom is very green. The color for the bath and the toilet is pretty much the stock color that it comes out of the store with. It's a very sort of like muted green, and I just think that that was like, you know, it was a perfect color as is, so I didn't want to mess with it. And then the bathroom was actually the one room in the house where I didn't add windows. So when I was doing the build screenshots, and when I did the walk around like empty house tour at the beginning of the video, the bathroom had no windows in it whatsoever, so I had to add some of those, and I decided to add them to, if you're looking at the house from the front, I decided to add them to the left side. So when you look out, I mean, you can't really look out of the bathroom windows, but where the bathroom windows are underneath it, it's literally just a roof piece which covers the little like deck area in the garden. So I didn't want the windows to be the other side looking out on like the back garden. I liked them. I liked where I ended up putting them in the bathroom. And they have the same sort of like color scheme as the other windows in the house, where the interior windows, they're doubled up. So the interior windows are a brown, and then the exterior windows are white. And then, yeah, the bathroom's just overall very yellow, gold, green, and brown. The wood texture and color for the bathroom cabinets is a different wood color and texture than the kitchen as well. So I didn't bring everything from the kitchen, but there's definitely a lot of similarities between the colors in the bathroom and the kitchen. But yeah, I'm super happy with how the bathroom turns out. The other thing that I did do is with the shower section, I wanted some sort of like storage. I like to do sort of built-in storage, but with that wall where the shower is, it's only like a single wall, so I just removed it. I used a resizable block to fill up the back part of it. From the exterior of the house, you can't tell too much, and because it's like up, it's higher than ground floor level, you really can't tell too much that it's a resizable block, and it's not like full block, because the way that the patterns take to the resizable blocks to the way that they take to normal like building blocks, it's different. So sometimes, especially if it's a pattern, if it's just like a plain color, you'll normally barely be able to tell, but if it's a pattern, sometimes it can take to the resizable block different to the actual like building blocks, so it can look a little bit funky. But because it's so high up, I don't think it's necessarily like a big deal or anything, but I just wanted some little like storage section in the shower place for you to stick like shampoo, conditioner, shower gel, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the bathroom, I just put some plants and little other little decorative bits in it. There's a lot of plants in the bathroom actually. There's a photo and some perfume, which one of them could be like a room spray and stuff. But yeah, super happy with how the bathroom turns out. And then when I'm done with the bathroom, I move on to the second bedroom. So the second bedroom is actually the smallest one. When I was building the shell for this house, I thought for some reason I was thinking that both bedrooms were like roughly the same size as each other, but they're definitely not. The first bedroom that I did is definitely the bigger one, and I really do like that one with the sort of like chimney coming down from the living room up to that bedroom. But the bedroom that we move on to after the bathroom is definitely a small one. I tend to always as well go for double beds. I think what would have made the second bedroom feel a little bit bigger is if I went for a single bed, but I just gravitate towards using double beds in the builds that I do or the bedrooms that I do, unless I'm going for something that's like a specific theme or, you know, a specific idea of like what kind of family is living there or something like that. But the next bedroom does have a double bed in it as well. It's got a built-in wardrobe, and then there's like a little TV unit. So in that bedroom, the floor as well is also carpet, and it's sort of like a dark blue carpet. I really quite like it, and again, I think that the dark blue sort of like color is another color that I think goes quite well with mid-century builds. I don't use dark blue in this build a lot. It's definitely more yellow green and yellow green and orange, but I think that sort of like a nice dark blue is definitely something as well that is sort of like mid-century. But the furniture for the second bedroom has taken me a little bit of time to figure out the layout. There's like a small indent in the second bedroom where I actually end up putting like a little TV unit and stuff, and I was going to make that flush, but then I feel like the windows would have had to have been like moved and everything. But I think it's only like one block, so it's not like the biggest extra space, but it does give a little bit of extra space, and it like tucks the TV a little bit back, so I'm glad that I didn't decide to block it off. But the section where I do put the TV, I just have it as like a one like wood paneled wall. Sorry, it's not panels, it's just like the wood texture. It's just like the whole wall. But the rest of the walls in the second bedroom are like a cream color, pretty much the same sort of like cream that is in the rest of the house as well. But the color scheme for the second bedroom is very brown, orange and yellow. It's more like brown and orange, whereas the first bedroom was very sort of like olive green. The second one is very just like orange, but I really like it. There's lots of wood. It's the same sort of like wood texture that I really like to use for the mid-century builds. It's actually same wood texture as well as the windows, like the interior windows. But yeah, it's very brown and orange, but I really like how it turns out. The kind of like style for the second bedroom that I went for is kind of like a teen or young adult, maybe in like college, something like that. So there is a computer in the second room as well. I do put some decorations around like a backpack, some games, magazines and notebooks, some postcards, sticky notes, that kind of thing. So maybe like somebody who's in college or something. But I really like how the second bedroom turns out. There's also a bedside table in the second bedroom, which I used just one of the resizable shelves with. It's the one that's kind of like a rectangle, and you can resize it like upwards or sideways. I just used that to create a floating bedside table. And the wardrobes that are in the second bedroom are the built-in wardrobes, and like I like to do, because they're normally glass and I feel like we don't really have enough sort of like clothing items to really fill them up, and I feel like I would prefer them to just be like plain anyway. So I use the resizable corkboard piece and I just immerse that into the wardrobes to cover up the glass. But there's 3 different wardrobes in the second room, and they first one is sort of like behind the door. So the door opens up onto where the desk and the wardrobes are. And on that wall, it goes like one wardrobe, then it goes the desk, then it goes the corner wardrobe, and then next to the corner wardrobe, there's another wardrobe. So there's a lot of wardrobes, but could also be used as storage. But between the two wardrobes, there's a desk, and I feel like it looks really like cozy. And I feel like it was a good use, sorry, of the space on that wall. If I wanted it to look more sort of like built in, as if it was like one big piece, I probably would have used the resizable window piece, as well as the like the shelves that I like to use, I like to call, sorry, the calyx units. I probably would have used that to make it seem more built in. But the desk that I do use in the second bedroom is one that I think definitely resembles more sort of like retro mid-century, so I'm glad that I used that, and it was like a perfect fit. And so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, the desk is just a little desk with a computer tower. I had to put a lava lamp in, of course. I feel like every build needs a lava lamp now that they're in game. And then between the two wardrobes above the desk, I do make a little shelf unit, the same as kind of like what I did with the living room, where the unit had different sized shelves. I wanted to do that for the second bedroom. So above the computer, there's just like a little shelf unit with a few different compartments, and I fill that with just some decorative bits and books, a camera and stuff like that. And then on the back of the wall where the computer screen is, I put in some sticky notes and postcards. Maybe they send postcards to friends, like maybe friends abroad or stuff like that. But yeah, this second bedroom is definitely more orientated around sort of like a teen or young adult, someone who's in college, something like that. But I really like how this room turns out. I think if I had to choose one of the bedrooms to have, I feel like it would be the second one. But I really do like the size of the first one, and I really like the tiles and everything from the what is it called from the fireplace going from the living room up into that second bedroom, as well as it's the bigger bedroom. But I really do like the second bedroom that I do. But yeah, that is the second bedroom. And then when I'm done with the second bedroom, oh, also I don't show myself doing the little like laundry room in this build. I do show it in the tour obviously, but I don't show myself decorating it. It's literally just like washing machine, tumble dryer, a little shelf, some cupboards, an ironing board, and some laundry baskets. I just didn't really see a point in showing it, so I don't show the laundry room, but it is there and you guys will see it in the tour. So yeah, when I'm done with the second bedroom, I move on to the garden. So the garden for this build, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with it. I really had no idea what to do with the garden. The front garden of this house, I don't actually show myself decorating it because it was taking a really long time. Obviously you guys will see it in the tour and screenshots and everything like that, but it was just taking a really long time with moving all of the different plants and the foliage. It's very bushy, there's lots of rocks and everything, and I was using the fishing rod tool, and it was really taking a long time to place everything and do everything in the front garden. So I didn't show myself doing any of the front garden. There's some bins and stuff out there as well, but I do show doing some of the back garden. And the only thing that I really knew that I wanted was I wanted a deck and I wanted some sort of like dining table in the seating area. Everything else I had no idea, so I just kind of like went with the flow. But the back door is between the living room and the garage. Normally whenever I do like a house that has a garden and stuff like that, I always like the back door to be in the kitchen, or at least very close to the kitchen, because I feel like that just makes the most sense. So the back door is not near the kitchen, but it's kind of like a straight shot from the kitchen down the stairs past the living room to the back door. So if you wanted to bring out food and stuff, it's not too much of a track, but I do like where I've put the back door in this build. But as you leave the back door, you're underneath like a covered section, and in that covered section I have a big dining room table, which I did custom make because I wanted it to be a little bit bigger than any of the ones that are in the game. And I just used a windowsill piece as well as 2 resizable squares to create the legs of the table, and then I just put some chairs around that with the chairs are like yellow and olive green, definitely 2 colors that go throughout this whole build. And then to the side of the table, so like the wall that backs onto the garage, I actually ended up making a little outside kitchen. Now it's not anything like really kitchen, there's no like oven or anything, there's actually just some cupboards, a sink, and then I do put in a countertop fridge because, you know, if you're entertaining and stuff, or if you wanted to keep things in there like hot dogs or drinks, stuff like that, you don't always have to go into the house up the stairs into the kitchen to get that kind of stuff. So I built a tiny little kitchen, like a kitchen not kitchen there, and it just has some like storage on it, a little shelf, and just chopping boards, different things like that. I put some containers down and I put some donuts and different things in the containers and stuff. So I feel like this house, especially the back garden, the way that the garden turns out, I feel like it would honestly be like a really perfect house to have like summer get-togethers and barbecues and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of like a kitchen, kind of not a kitchen, but that is like the section that you come to first when you leave the back door. And then there's 2 other seating areas in the back garden. There is one which, if you're in the living room and you're looking out of the windows into the back garden, I knew that section there I wanted like a seating area, and I end up using the chairs that come out with the Sakura DLC. They kind of like modular ones, but they don't actually have a corner piece, which I find kind of annoying. But they do have like this wooden platform, so I put that down as the corner piece, and I use it as, you know, just like a little bit of storage. So there's some decorative bits that go on top of that, but that's just a big seating area. And then in the middle of that I put down a fire pit, so I really feel like this back garden would be like such a nice place to hang out. And then the section that I briefly spoke about when I was doing the bathroom, where I had to extend the bathroom to accommodate for the bath because I didn't want to make the other bedroom any smaller, but because I had to extend the bathroom, it was poking out from the rest of the house, and I didn't want it to look like it was just floating. So there's a section in the garden where I put a grill, or like a barbecue kind of section. It's a little bit away from the kitchen, but it's still covered, and I feel like it was a good use of space. As I mentioned briefly when I was doing the bathroom section, I think if I was to change anything maybe about this build, I would have that space usable on the inside instead, and maybe do like a downstairs toilet, because otherwise you gotta go up like 2 flights of stairs to use the bathroom. So I think that that is something that could definitely have been used for that section of this build instead, but I just didn't like how the bathroom was so like poking out over the rest of the house. But I think I could have maybe used that space, because on the interior of the house, in the living room section where there's a photo on the wall, sort of like between the living room and the corridor to go to the garage, there's a picture on the wall, and it's that wall that backs onto where the grill is on the outside. Hopefully this makes sense. But that is kind of like it was just like a hollow wall, so it was actually quite a few bricks thick, because I had to like match up how many bricks I brought out the bathroom to accommodate for the bath. And I think on the interior I could have and maybe should have used it as a downstairs toilet, but it wasn't something that I thought of at the time. It was when I was getting towards the end of the build that I was thinking that I could use it as a downstairs toilet instead, but I decided to just go with what I already had and, you know, just use it, make the space usable on the outside of the house instead. But it's something that, you know, whoever owns this house could definitely brick it up and change it to a downstairs toilet if they wanted to. But that would definitely be a good use of that space, because it was just literally quite a few bricks thick, just dead space, because I wasn't sure at the beginning of the build what to do there. But then towards the end I was thinking I could do a downstairs toilet, but I didn't end up doing that. But yeah, definitely something that could be changed if needed. But yeah, that's where the grill ends up being, and I think it was a pretty cool use of space. Definitely something a little bit different. There's also a little bit of wood storage there for the fire in the living room. So yeah, there's just like a little grill or barbecue there. So I really like how it turns out. I really do like how the garden turns out. And then there's another like little seating area just opposite the dining table, the outside dining table. And then the other part of the garden, just down from the decking, is a lap pool. And I wasn't originally gonna have a lap pool, or not necessarily like a lap pool. I wasn't originally gonna have a pool in this build whatsoever, but I was thinking about the mid-century lake house that I did, and I just thought that it was a really good use of space to add in a little pool. And I definitely think that this house, the garden and everything, would be a great place for entertaining in the summer, just having like friends and family around. It is like a lap pool, so it's not necessarily like so it's not really big or anything like that, but there are some like pool floaties that I put in, and you know, it could be used to just like have fun in the pool. It doesn't necessarily have to just be used as a lap pool, but it is quite slim, so it's not a huge pool. But I did end up putting a pool down, and then the rest of the garden is pretty much just covered in foliage and rocks. And the section where the pool is, there are some stepping stones, and I just covered the whole area in sand because I thought that would be better than having like gravel. So it's like a sandy section, your own like little private beach. And then the section where the hill is, because I'm thinking like maybe the whole area, when the people who built this house bought the land, it was all like hill, and then they flattened half of it and then they kept half of it, so that's where they built the kitchen on top of the hill. And then the hill kind of like dips down into the rest of the house and the garden. I don't know if that's me being weird, maybe, but that's the way that I was thinking about it. But the garden is very sort of like rocky and planty. There's lots of rocks everywhere. I feel like the hill would maybe be a bit of a pain to like mow the lawn. But that's a problem for whoever would own this house. But where the pool is, there's also some sun lounges and a little table so people can just like chill there. And then the rest of it is, as I said, just filled up with foliage and rocks, and the hill kind of like comes around the pool a little bit. It's not like too high, it's just like a gradual little hill with some rocks and different things like that. And yeah, that is pretty much the garden. I do have some big tree, or not, they're not huge trees. I do have some trees going so like around almost the whole property, from the front to the back of the house on like one side. So half of the house has like trees going around it as like a tree fence, and then the other half of the house is just like empty because that's where the hill is. But yeah, I am super happy with how this build turns out, and I would 1,000,000% absolutely love to just live in it. I would just live in it as it is. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this build, taking the time to check it out. I really do appreciate you. So thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what you think of this build, what you think of the garden, how you would have decorated it, if you would have decorated it differently. If you have a favorite room or anything like that, do let me know in the comments. As always, there's timestamps in the description if you would like to skip around to the tour, screenshots, cinematic, anything like that. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to check out this video. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever the time is wherever you are, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye.